I don't agree with the idea that because sometimes people do bad things in excess, we should ban the thing entirely.
Sure.
I have no problem with Polymarket or Kalshi. I think they're great. Like I said, I've got an account on Kalshi. They sponsor the show. And if I think it's fun to make predictions, add a little spice to your sporting event. Look, I bet.
Is there a limiting principle on that?
I have no problem with people drinking beer. I have a problem with alcoholism. And I don't think people should go to prison for having alcoholism. They should get some kind of help. We want to help each other. I got no problem with gambling or prediction markets. I have a problem with gambling addictions, and we should get these people help.
You know, a majority of these industry are built off of the backs of these loser-addicted males.
It's not true.
Of course it's true.
Completely false.
What part of it?
There is certainly a problem emerging where we have way too many casinos and mobile apps where there are a lot of people now that are gambling that didn't before. But the bulk of people who gamble are not addicts who are losing their life savings. That's actually exceedingly rare. Most people, and you can, listen, bro, I spend way too much time playing poker. I know about how these things work. It's extremely easy to get status at a lot of casinos because people don't go to casinos that often. So, for example, I think like the Hard Rock, which is, they're all over the place. There's not that many relative to other, like Penn Play. Penn Entertainment is the second biggest casino chain in the country. It's wild. But to get status, like the highest tier, you have to have spent over a year $15,000 at the casino. Now, don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money. But that's the highest, that's their highest member tier outside of their invited tier, which is where you get millionaires and billionaires and stuff. If you want to get general status, the card's free. So we don't count that. But the second tier, it's like, go there for 3 weekends and you're upgraded and getting free food and comps. And that's really easy to do because people actually don't go that often.
I think I should be a little bit more concise. Most of the revenue generated by these gambling companies
comes from addicts.
It's coming from, no. As far as the sports betting apps go, definitely. I've read research into it.
That's incorrect.
As far as I understand.
Bro, listen.
Just to make a further point about that, as I understand that is to be the case, but I also think we're dealing in a time of economic stagnation, and young men are already struggling with so many different things. Young men are struggling with drugs. Young men are struggling with women. Young men are struggling to find jobs.
And
now we're throwing more of these
a cultural problem,
and this is contributing to the cultural problem. But to add on that, now you have a shitty job that you go back home to, and you think, oh man, I barely have any extra money around. Hey, maybe I go bet on Polymarket. Maybe I go bet on Kalshi. Maybe I go bet on the sports game that I think I know better on. And then these young men continue to go further and further into debt. They predominantly
we get it. You're gish galloping.
Poor men.
We get that you're gish galloping.
I'm not finished.
If you'd like to make a single point that can be addressed instead of saying 50 things that are wrong.
My point is this hurts young men.
Okay, so let me explain to you why you are wrong. Because the majority of money generated is by single-use small bets. People who make sports bets, they're like fantasy leagues and things like that where someone puts $20 down. It would be impossible for a casino to exist if they drained the bank accounts of everybody who showed up and they were all homeless after the fact. Alcohol, the booze industry is not supported because everyone's addicted to alcohol. It's because people sometimes have some drinks.
It's supported by the alcoholics. The alcohol industry is supported by the alcoholics, not the people who occasionally drink.
If you removed all alcoholics from the market, you would not put a dent in their sales.
You're totally wrong. You'd probably remove 80% of the alcohol sales.
Absolutely not.
If you remove the alcoholics from alcohol sales,
there's not that many alcoholics, bro.
Most of the people drinking most of the alcohol are the alcoholics. It's like a 1%er issue. 1% of the people drinking the alcoholics are consuming like 80% of the alcohol.
You do understand how ridiculous that is considering how much alcohol is sold every day.
No, I'm totally spot on this. So people who are alcoholics are having like 100 drinks, hundreds of drinks a month.
That many of them.
But they're drinking most of the alcohol.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
So I spend a lot of time playing poker. Poker rooms are very different from casino floors. Always different people. There's a handful of regulars at a lot of these places. And this is why, Elaad, casinos have venues. Because most of the people who show up come for a show and then never come back. That's why casinos have venues. That's why Stake, is Stake Kick, I think?
Stake is the gambling. I think Kick is streaming.
And Kick is the venue to attract people to come to their online casino. Casinos don't have regulars who pay their bills, so they have to bring in at a loss shows. There are people who go to Charlestown and they'll sell 1,000 tickets and they'll get paid $30,000. And I'm like, whoa, now come on there a minute. that people who shut up aren't spending that much for some of these tickets.
Yep.
For them to pay the artist, pay the staff, the booking, the space. The casinos book these things at a loss because bringing in 1,000 people to a venue means they're going to spend $50 on drinks, maybe $100 on slots, and then leave. I have absolutely no problem with people having fun. The idea that the problem we're facing is, I do agree that the ubiquity and access to something does create the ease of access to it makes it, well, I guess the simple way to put it is, the more casinos there are, the easier for addicts and degenerates to get caught up in it. Agreed. But the problem we have in this country is cultural, and we have parents who are not raising their kids well. We have economic systems which have incentivized mothers to get jobs instead of raising their kids. So the kids go to schools where they're indoctrinated by leftist teachers. This is creating cultural issues that did not exist before. It is resulting in the expansion of degeneracy. The availability of marijuana is not the problem. The availability of alcohol is not the problem. The availability of gambling is not the problem. And I'll put it like this. First, I will say, don't anyone dare come to me and say that we should ban all these things. I had all the access in the world as a teenager to drinking, to smoking, to, playing street craps, whatever you want to do with the gangbangers. I also had good parents, so I never did any of those things. As a teenager, I tried pot once. I didn't really like it. When I was late, like 19 to 20, I drank on the weekends quite a bit with my friends. And then after about 2 years, I was like, this sucks. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't really enjoy it. I don't need this. Some people just get drunk and they don't stop. But when you have good parents and they raise you right and they teach you right, you don't experience this to this extreme degree. There can be a casino in every single street corner, and a devout, faithful, moralistic country would run them out of business. They could not exist. Now, what we have is there are a lot of people that are okay with gambling now. And so New York and Chicago are opening big casinos. And I have no problem with a city having a casino. I do think there is an issue that I talk about it all the time. Within 2 hours of us, I think there's like 10 casinos. Like, that's wild. But again, a guy who gets off of work on a Friday and he worked 40 hours, his hands are calloused, and he says, I just want to watch the game with my friends. I want to put $20 down, get a little excitement from the game with a smile on my face and make jokes. And if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. That's the average person. Sometimes people are addicted, and that is a problem. But I don't think it makes sense to ban something simply because some people abuse it.
So as far as access goes, do you have any issue with people having, in any state being able to access any of these sports betting apps or a casino, online casino on their phone?
I have no problem whatsoever with people being able to access the mobile apps, but I do understand an ease of access will increase per capita the amount of people who will be addicted or see those problems. Because a state that never, like Texas has no gambling, right? They only have private gambling like poker rooms. So there are people who just can't do it.
It's like, does supply drive demand or does the demand drive supply? And does this help make it become a part of the culture?
Neither.
I think
we're talking about a cultural phenomenon.
No, but the supply of the ability to, like these casinos and these different apps to gamble on, I think this helps push the demand for more of it.
I think it is like the amount of.
But I agree with you that, like, culturally, and if you were raised right, and if you're a good, religious, sane, sober, moral person, then yeah, you probably wouldn't gamble, and that's a good thing, and we should encourage that. That's mostly not what's
most
happening.
Casinos. If you're going to find a regular, they're in the poker room. And that's because you can sit in a poker room for 12 hours and not spend any money at all. And so a lot of these guys are just hanging out. You do get, everybody calls each other degenerates and things like that. But typically, if you're in a place and you see someone you know, it's a poker player. Some casinos have, like, no one's regularly playing craps for the most part. That's exceedingly rare. People who go to casinos go one time every few months and they bet a few $100 and they leave. That's the average person. That's where they're making their money. This is why casinos have hotels. This is why they have venues. This is why they do promotions. And this is why they send you emails incessantly. Because if it were true that most of the money they made was from degenerates who lose all their money, they wouldn't advertise at all. They would just have people coming and dumping their paychecks.
I think we need to do negative PR against things like online gambling. I think we need to start calling it
I think that's a
boy
cop-out.
games. Goy games. You don't want to go play those Goy games, Phil. Serge, you don't want to go to those Goy game casinos. No. Where all those Jews are stealing your money at the casinos. Do you really want to go to play those Goy games in those Jewish casinos where they're stealing all your money? Do you guys really want to log on to those?
We get it, Elaad. The problem that I see with your logic is that this is what has led conservatives to failure over the past 20 or 30 years. Instead of addressing the issue of what children were being given, they said, just take the thing away as adults. And that didn't work. Marijuana is legal because the country accepted it, even though many conservatives don't like it. Yep. Because instead of going to kids and strengthening their familial values, they had DARE programs, which actually made everything worse. Bro, when I was in public school as a kid, and the cop comes in and he goes, "I'm going to teach you about drugs," and then he showed all the kids the drugs. You know what the kids did? Drugs. I'm going to get me some of that.
They made it cool. They made it alluring.
They made it punk rock. They made it edgy. They made it anti-authoritarian. And guess what? I never did any of that stuff. I have never done a hard drug in my life. The most I've ever done is I smoked pot one time with my buddies when I was 16. I think I was 15 or 16 in his backyard. And they're like, "Tim, try the pot." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" I'm like, "That sucked." And I don't like it. I never smoked it. I never tried again.
Maybe sometimes I wish we were a Christian nation, because a Christian nation would definitely outlaw gambling.
Well, you don't need to outlaw it.
I can tell you one easy way I think that everyone could get behind, that a lot of people aren't talking about, to fix the gambling situation, especially sports betting. So I discovered this with our group of friends. I mentioned this earlier. We had a whole strategy. It wasn't even gambling. It was investing. We've all been throttled or kicked off of several books. I'm throttled off of DraftKings. I'm banned off of Bet365.
What? Why?
You're not allowed to be an advantage player.
You're not allowed to win on these sports books. If you start winning, they say, okay, that bet's too big. The most you can bet is $5.14. So I think they're obviously kicking players like us off that are good and are actually doing what you can do now in Kalshi. I think if you eliminated that and say basically, hey, is this not deceptive advertising? Is this not fault? Like, you're advertising that everyone can be a winner. Not everyone can be a winner because you kick them off when they win. I love I love Kalshi, but
they're basically just saying you're buying and trading contracts amongst each other. Again, the issue is, I'm a fan of this. And as you can see, I have $313.96 in my account. That's a lot for me, and I it's for fun. I put $100 on the Seahawks to win, and I won $50 or something. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And if I lost the $50, I'd be like, I lost $50. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's just for fun. It's just to be like, oh boy, I hope I win. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a beer. There's nothing wrong with getting drunk. There's something wrong with getting drunk and crashing your car and killing somebody. Yep. There's something wrong with getting drunk every single day, nonstop, no matter what, and then dying of liver cirrhosis.
So the stat that I was misquoting earlier was, this is from the Smithsonian, says the top 10% of American drinkers consume nearly 60% of all the alcohol sold, averaging roughly 74 drinks per week. So it wasn't as exaggerated as I stated earlier, but still makes up, the top 10% makes over a majority.
So say that one more time.
The top 10% of American drinkers consume nearly 60% of all alcohol sold.
That doesn't mean those are alcoholics.
Okay.
So are we talking about somebody who has like 2 glasses of wine every day?
Averaging 74 drinks per week. Actually, that is an alcoholic.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah,
okay.
74 per week. That's a lot.
That's an alcoholic for sure, actually.
That's 10 drinks a day.
Yeah. And I mean, I know people who... I know alcoholics. I don't know if it might be 10 drinks a day. I wouldn't know because they hide it. And we all know alcoholics, actually.
Indeed.
And 10 drinks a day as an alcoholic.
That's absolutely
it's an alcoholic, but 10 drinks a day if you're drinking every day, 10 drinks a day is
not a lot.
It's not a lot.
Well, alcoholics could power through a ton of alcohol because they build up
when I used to drink all the time, I would drink well over 10 drinks a day.
Oh, I have a very sensitive stomach.
I don't know how that's possible. First of all, alcohol tastes terrible.
Well,
miserably disgusting.
When you're drinking over 10 drinks a day, you're not drinking for the taste of alcohol.
See,
anymore.
I go to the restaurant and I say, I want a mocktail. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.